We will start from the beginning. The great change came over Ramdas in 1922 with his life of renunciation, not as a result of his own effort or initiative, but by the power, will and grace of God. Until this transformation came to him, he was living only an ordinary life. This does not mean that he was selfish or inflicted any injury upon others or exploited others for his personal happiness. It was only that he was not aware then that there was a great reality underlying this universal manifestation, and that by attaining that reality one could become supremely happy and peaceful, free from all anger, hate, bickering, which brought him in daily conflict with his fellow beings. Papa is portraying before us what he was subjected to go through like all of us. Whenever we are dealing in the Vyavaharic level, anger will be there, hate, bickering will be there, normally. At the same time, we may not be selfish, we may not be we don't want to cause any injury to anybody, we don't want to exploit others. In spite of that, these things also may come. So here he gives us a clue that until and unless we first intellectually understand that there is a higher power which is responsible for all the movements that are taking place intellectually, we will not be moving towards the ideal. How to get over this anger, hatred, bickering. So a value-based life is the proprietary life that we can see. Me to we life. As much as possible. By and large, we all try to live such a life only. We may not say that we are going out to help somebody, but as far as our life is concerned, we don't cross the Lakshman Rekha, not taking somebody. That is not enough. And another clue he is giving to us. That is not enough. So the need for knowing a higher power alone can free us from all the disturbing tendencies in our mind. How he introduces God remembrance, in a mild way now. What is that? The great change came to him. What was the great change? The first line is, the great change came over Ramdas in 1922 with the life of renunciation. The great change because God selected, God poured, God directed. The outer circumstances were made by him in such a way that he developed distaste, detachment, indifference. So that was the preparatory stage. Before that, he was leading a value-based life. So he must have been constantly thinking about the futility of life. In spite of my best effort, why I am not successful? We can say that, mounting problems, mounting liabilities. Not finding a way to clear off, to run the establishment which was running. So he says, free from all anger, hate and bickering which brought him in daily conflict with his fellow beings. So this was going on. The great change came to him. How did it come? Only because God selected, God made him, God guided him, God prompted him, God put him on the line. So when we hear these words, what is expected of us is to intensely pray for. You guided Papa, you freed him from all. Why don't you please bless me with that? Something like that. You are seated in everybody, so you are seated in me also. Even if you don't choose me, if you don't select me, I will be leading the same type of life which I am leading now. I will be viewing everything from the individual standpoint which you have given. You gave me an individual life. Now I realize I did not order this life. You gave me this life. To work out your will, and so long as I don't realize this, to work out the prarabdha which I carry on. You are behind my very life. You wanted me to do certain things, I forgot. So then how am I being now propelled to do so many actions? Then at that level I can say my prarabdha, my hangover. So I will not be free from this hangover, I will be getting into the hangover again and again and again. Why don't you please make me aware that you have sent me for it, for the purpose for which you have given me this. Through the Maya, through the illusion, you made me to forget about the very simple truth that you gave me a life to work out your will. So in Papa's case, now we find, this is thought that is welling up. You made him to lead a life like that up to 38 years, and then you revealed, enough. You are drafted for something else. And so you created the external environments in such a way that he is relieved from the present one and put, that is the great change. Kindly think about it. Why is he mentioning, why are we reading? No? It is not for the historicity, know about how Papa, no. Certainly, how will I get the same position? We are leading the same life as he was leading in his 38 years. That is why, as rightly pointed out by an ardent devotee, we have to start from where they started, not from where they ended. We have to see the photo of Papa where they started. We are seeing this photo after it ended, no? So we will not get any clue. Suppose we try to associate, up to 38 years he was leading an ordinary life. Like all of us. Everything based on the individual level. Then God decided enough is enough. All of us come because God has a specific assignment for every creation of His. He gives us a freedom to remember or to forget. So we forgot. We thought we are the planners, we are the doers, we are the sufferers, we are the enjoyers. We complained, we grumbled. Some fleeting joys are there, no doubt. Again we crave for something more, crave for something more. But when we are drawn by a larger life scene like Papa, and then He makes us to associate ourselves with His journey, we try to slowly think, oh. I have forgotten that I have been given this job to work out His will. I have never brought Him into the picture. So then now we intensely pray to Him, kindly make me to become your instrument. So far I have been thinking that my life is decided by me. I forgot that this life was not brought by me. I did nothing to bring this life, the present me, the sense of individuality. The sense of individuality did not do anything to bring this life. It was purely by your grace that you gave me a life. I forgot. I started everything. I used to worship you distant from me. I used to praise you, I used to chant your name, I used to have your vision in temples, I used to have satsang with Mahatmas, but I still feel they are away from me. At that particular time, I find some joy, that's all. I have never treated that they are in me, they are related, they are relevant to me. Think. We have never considered Him as a part of ours. So the great change is we considered Him as a part, or he became fully convinced that he is subservient to that higher power. So this very word, great change, that can make us to ponder deeply. First Papa's and then ours. Your invisible hands were there. You did not impose your views. You gave me a lot of freedom to reject you, to also to accept you sometimes. You did not insist that it should be like this. Such a magnificent heart, such a generous heart you have. I all realize now. Even when there were moments when I thought that you are there, it was only for a few moments. When I take part in bhajan, when I take part in nama chanting, when I take part in satsang, we know that, have we taken Him as a part of ourselves first, and then slowly the major part, and finally He is. That is the 3 steps. First we should see Him as a part of ourselves. That means the individuality is there, but He is also there. Then second stage is the individuality is subservient to the power. And finally the power is the one only. Individuality is only an instrument. So the great change came in 1922, with his life of renunciation, not as a result of his own effort or initiative, but by the power, will and grace of God. Until this transformation came to him, he was living only an ordinary life. This does not mean that he was selfish or inflicted any injury upon others or exploited others for his personal happiness. It was only that he was not aware that there was a great reality underlying this universal manifestation, and that by attaining that reality one could become supremely happy and peaceful, free from anger, hate and bickering, which brought him in daily conflict with his fellow beings. When this great change came, Ramdas was swept off his feet as it were. The floods came from, when the floods come, we are swept off the feet. He did not know what was going to happen to him. He was asked to repeat the name of God constantly to keep his mind serene and calm, so that it could go deeper within himself to find the truth on which his life was based. So chanting of his name, he was very clear. God made it very clear to him that chanting of his name should ultimately enable him to go deep down within himself. For what? To go to the root, to go to the base, to go to the substratum of his very life. Kindly think about it. These are all very important truths Papa is giving to us. Please give him a chair. So when this great change came, Ramdas was swept off his feet as it were. He did not know what was going to happen to him. Just go back to his life. He had a commercial establishment. It had run into a lot of problems. He did not know how to handle it. But God has pushed him to that. God made somebody to come forward to help him come out of the financial liabilities and the administrative responsibilities. He was relieved from that, and he was to take charge of the technical side, production side. But along with that, this has also been injected into him. That for the moment the problem is over, again the problem may come. So is there a solution permanently to have peace of mind, eternal peace, eternal happiness, eternal peace? So that made him to not to fall into the new development. We would have definitely fallen because we had solved the problem. Whenever we are in problem, we used to pray. The moment the problem is solved, we are again back to our own self. But in Papa's case, he did not. Another clue for us. God has been extremely kind towards him to make him know that the relief given by that friend to rid him of all the routine, mundane problem, it was not the real answer for the life. Number one. Number two. So when he was made to free himself from this, he did not know what is in store for him from the individual level. On 27th December 1922, when he left Bangalore as Vittal Rao, he had absolutely no idea as to what is in store. He was not worried. God had given him that much, what you call assurance, implicit, unflinching faith in him. That he is on the road of getting himself stabilized in eternal happiness, eternal contentment, eternal peace. You will find after 2 or 3 chapters, whatever little money he carried, that also was immediately given to somebody, and he became quite, he said, Ramdas became now quite free. In the normal way, that should be the cause for anxiety, next moment what will I do? He did not know what was going to happen to him. He was asked to repeat the name of God constantly, to keep his mind serene and calm, so that it would go deeper within himself, to find the truth on which his life was based. Inward journey. Chanting of the name did not allow him to go anywhere else. That is why he said constant chanting. Constant chanting enabled him to go deep down within himself. Because in our case, we chant and then we stop. Then the mind goes to different places. The mind is not trained to go inward. In his case, because it was exclusive chanting, 20 to 22 hours a day, the mind had forgotten about the field on which it was going. With the result, where can it go? The Nama, as it were, has put a fence around him. And then the mind went inside. This, he brings it out. He was asked to repeat the name of God constantly, to keep his mind serene and calm, so that it could go deeper within himself, to find the truth on which his life was based. So actually it is not dhyana separate. To him, chanting itself enabled him to go within. Normally when we share with others Namdhyan Seva, we treat it as independent, In his case, it was not independent. His chanting was throughout, so that it had put a fence around his mind. The thought was not going anywhere else. So when the thought has no place to go, it went inside and got itself stabilized in the substratum upon which the sense of individuality lives. For that purpose, he was made to give up everything. All attachments to worldly life, worldly relations, worldly possessions, and he was taken from place to place in a state which was really wonderful. So if the mind has to go exclusively inward, he should be free from me and mine. That is called the relations and possessions. When we are going to take up the centenary of Virat Papa's Sannyas centenary. Virat Papa, Sannyas centenary we can say. Papa is giving clarity of how his mind was. At every step, what happened, what God arranged everything, beautifully, in a beautiful way, and at the same time giving him the joy. Giving up everything, giving up as such, it is a painful thing. But in his case, the giving up was natural, dropping off. He did not struggle for it. He did not struggle for it. Attachment towards, he was, the worldly. For that purpose, he was made to give up everything, all attachments to worldly life, worldly relations, worldly possessions. So even to the profession, ambition, to make a living, to make a decent living, all those things, we are all having that, no? That was not there. Attachment to relations was not there. Attachment to possessions was not there. All those things, without any struggle, it got dropped off from him. On this occasion, Papa is asking us to, not for the sake of knowing his life, but compare it with what is going on in our life, and we pray to him to facilitate us in our own way, not in the way in which you did in Papa's case. In our own way, you bring it out, because you know the limitation of my equipment. You are given this equipment, and this equipment has got its own limitation. So, accommodating my limitations, why don't you please prescribe a methodology by which I remember you always. The world had practically ceased to exist. His mind was merely an instrument in the hands of the divine, and he was being led by that power. His mind was merged in ineffable peace and bliss. Constantly aware. Now we can understand what is this constant chanting, When he says no other sadhana is necessary, purely chanting is necessary. Purely chanting will take us. Because then chanting prohibits, chanting protects us from, chanting insulates us from all the down-pulling tendencies of the mind, because it has no time to think about anything else. And then finally it takes a dive into oneself, and then because of the blessings of the indwelling reality, try to catch that, try to touch that, feel the presence of that, and then get stabilized. Then he knew he was pulled by that. The mind was an instrument, means he was pulled by that power, and then it absorbed into himself. His mind was merged in ineffable peace and bliss. I think some clarity will come to our sadhana by going deeper and deeper into this. If we read only that you simply chant, no. But we have tried. But he said, exclusive chanting. Now we slowly try to understand intellectually that how that constant chanting enabled him to go inward. Having experienced the supreme joy in this state, Ramdas was going about telling everybody that if they lived on the lower levels of life like animals, they could never get real happiness. They must transcend all these and go deep down within themselves and realize the all-pervading eternal spirit, which is pure bliss and peace. So the pivotal, the most important aspect of the sadhana is that one should go within. We will employ any method by which the tendency of the mind to go outside is arrested, as it were, and turned the whole efforts to go with him. They must transcend all these lower life, individual, viewing everything from the individual level. Not recognizing the relevance of the indwelling power. Ramdas was wandering from place to place, and during his wanderings he was made to remain for days together in caves and jungles in order that he might get the fullness of spiritual experience, which is the aim and purpose of human life. So even during this period, he gives another clue to us that outwardly, he is in touch with the world outside, men and matters, men and objects. So there is a likelihood that the mind may go out again. So in order that the mind is fully trained, he was prompted to take to solitary life in caves and jungles. Absolutely, there is no individual there, there is no person there. No? Where he could easily commune with the indwelling reality. Another clue for all of us. Because we are very much with the world outside. Every time something will come and take us away from his thought. Still we may be planning, we may be doing with the feeling that we are planning. Suppose we leave everything, Whatever he prompts, we act, that's all. There is no prefix, suffix. Anyway, how it should be done, each one has to follow. Each one has to follow the dictate given by him. By reading, contemplating, by meditating on this, assimilating. He has given us an intellect. Through intellect we try to recognize his presence and then pray to him to give us. Because he also did that. From 1920 onwards, along with whatever, he was also going through texts. Texts that highlight that there is an indwelling reality in all of us. To quote his own words, he will say that, in behind and beneath everything, the spirit is there, the Atman is there and everything. So, this is something very, very important. What is the great change? Today's take-home message, or what you call pondering point is, the great change came to him. He says, what is the great change? Ordinarily we will say, no, he left everything and went. No, he did not. The great change is not leaving everything. The great change that took place in him, from the individual to the higher level. Because he was leading an ordinary life in the individual level. From the individual level to a higher level, where he was thoroughly convinced about the supremacy of the great power over him, and that everything happens only by the will of God. So when he started slowly accepting it, the entire equipment realm started cooperating with him. And in his case, in 2 years, it got triggered. And later on, it was only a question of getting it stabilized. So we all intensely pray to Him, Pray to the power who is seated within us. Papa has named it as the mysterious power. Some device by which we pray to Him. Pray to Him to remember Him. Pray to Him to enable us to remember Him. Pray to Him to enable us to remember Him. Mam anusmara yudyata. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudyata. Therefore, at all times and in all conditions, remember me and fight the battle of life. We pray to Him kindly, please, anusmaranam. Not just remembering, constant. Even these words are coming because you made us to say these words. These words are being heard because you made us to hear these words. We are reading from a text called Swami Ramdas himself because you made to take up this book. You made us to sit here. You made us to do. Let that get ingrained. That is the reality. Let that get ingrained in us. Not that during the chanting time only, or during the bhajan time only, or during the arati time only. This is the prayer of Papa. O Ram, what thy slave Ramdas should do or should not do must be determined by thee alone. He is bewildered, he is helpless. Make him resign all to thee. Let him live, move, have his being in thee. Let him eat, drink, sleep, move, sit, stand, talk, think, look, hear, smell, touch, do everything in thy name and for thy sake only. Let him eat, drink, sleep, move, sit, stand, talk, think, look, hear, smell, touch, do everything in thy name and for thy sake only. O Ram, O Divine Mother, Ramdas is thine totally, completely, heart, soul, body, mind, everything, everything. So from the tiniest act, not merely doing in anything, that particular word gives us this clue. If it has not been experienced, how can you bring out that? That is the great change. Let us all try to think about the word great change. How pregnant it is with all these sublime thoughts, profound thoughts, Small word, great change. Having made us to think and contemplate upon it, why don't you please put us on the rails? Please, that is the only prayer we have. Papa later on will talk to us that he is now the engine who can take wagons. Then after a few words he says, you should not be like a wagon, you should become an engine. So first the engine-wagon relationship. And then the wagon gets upgraded to the level of engine, carrying more wagons. Be God and lead others to God. So all those words, keep on coming to us. Now let us at least get attached to that engine and know that the engine is dragging us. You think it's the same book or somewhere? When they reach there, we will be able to understand. Here it is there. All may be sure that Ramdas had repeated the number of Nam Japa required to get him the vision of God. Now that he has attained him, he can be compared to a big railway engine which can pull many wagons to the destination. The devotees have only to keep themselves linked with Ramdas, as the wagons are linked to the engine, and they will in course of time be taken to the destination. Ramdas had told Mataji that it was for her and others' sake that he went on the pilgrimages, so that the path for her and others might be made easier. Some of the devotees will not always remain as wagons. God will make them engines. Yes, the devotees are quite safe, but you are not going to become mere wagons. You will all be engines. Those who stay with Ramdas and serve him do not do it for nothing. They must become real engines, more or less powerful, but fit enough to carry a few to the destination. So our first job is to become a wagon, attached to the engine. That is the great change that is expected of us. So let us all pray. We have been thinking that we are the engine. We now know, at least intellectually, that there is an engine and we are all wagons. But immediately we forget and we feel that we are the engine. So we are now praying to him. Make me aware of the reality that I am a wagon attached to you. You are pulling. So let the great change, kindly keep on thinking about it. Those who have the text, Swami Ramdas on himself, may go through that. The first line, the great change came in 1922. What is the great change? That is enough for us, for our sadhana. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram